5 minutes for his question.
Thank you, Chairman. The question would be for Ms. Sweeney and Mr. Hammond. What factors does a company consider when they're thinking about what location in the United States of America that a processing or refinery facility would be in?
So what states specifically?
Or what would be the parameters or the factors when you're looking at different locations? I mean, the continental United States is so vast in areas and resources and highways and stuff. What factors would play into that development?
So certainly ore grade would be a big factor, but there are companies that try to avoid federal lands at all costs because the permitting process for federal lands takes so much longer because there's more agencies involved and it almost always triggers NEPA, whereas if you're on state or private lands, you can move your project forward that much more quickly.
Mr. Hammond, do you have a comment?
Sure. So echoing what Katie said, with mining, you have to go where the minerals are, right? It sounds like common sense, but that's the way it is. They're not coming to you. You have to go to them. But in particular, where you choose is also going to be a matter of where's the most favorable regulatory environment. And I agree with Katie as well. For many people, doing that on federal land is going to be more problem than it's worth. So you're going to look for state or private.
Mr. Hammond, in your written statement, you said that the company decided to skip out on development and opportunities on federal land when the development was right next to an existing project on state or private land. I know in the state of Ohio, a company from West Virginia, Infinity, was granted the right to drill on state lands. And there was a very compassionate, very conscious acknowledgement of the preservation of the environmental impact. I think anyone that's involved with minerals, we understand that Mother Earth needs to be protected at all costs. In this case in particular, I think they decided that there was already a private piece of property that was right next to it that was already doing drilling. So they decided to use that property to pay for an additional contract with people that they didn't have to because they already had the state contract. So in all due respect to the preservation of the environment, they chose to go on the private land and do horizontal drilling into the state land, so there would be no surface impact on the state property. I thought this was a logical approach to the pathway forward for the development of minerals in America. But we see that there's a big difference when you look at private land, state land, and federal land. So I think you already started the parameters of how it looks like when you're playing around with the federal land, with the hiccups and the road bumps that we have in place for that. Do you see a pathway forward, either one of you, on how we get past these roadblocks?
More efficient permitting for federal lands, I think, is the direction we need to go. That means more efficient NEPA reviews, environmental assessments, environmental impact statements. The Congress has already told the agencies how long it should take. And I think that there have been some projects where those deadlines have been ignored, or the companies have been told that they need to request an extension rather than trying to push those timelines.
Excellent. Mr.
So
Hammond?
we need people to implement what Congress told them to do.
Sure. I think Katie's right. It comes down to permitting reform. But one thing in particular that I was focusing on in my testimony is concurrent review or consecutive reviews as opposed to parallel or concurrent. And that's the example I was talking about with respect to uranium, where a project proponent was going through the process, but then kept having new requirements dumped on them and extending out the time of the review. So, I mean, what I think will be most effective is if you tell a project proponent on day 0 what exactly you're going to need to get through all the way through a permitting process. That's the fair way to do it, and that's the efficient way to do it.
Thank you so much, Chairman. I yield my time.
I thank the gentleman. The chair now recognizes the gentleman from Georgia, Mr. Allen, for 5 minutes for his questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for holding this important hearing.